Hello, guys. This is your host, PushDustin, and joining me today is Source Gaming contributor Tris.
Hello.
And today we are here to talk about the Zelda DLC packs. During the Nintendo Spotlight, Aonuma came on and reintroduced the Master Trial pack, which is coming out on June 30th. And he also introduced for the first time the second pack, which we now know is called the Champion's Ballad. So let's first talk about the Master of Trial. What do you think about this pack so far?
So, the Master Trials, when they first revealed it, I know majority of the internet thought it was fairly underwhelming. But now that we actually saw it in action, first of all, the new armor looks amazing. I can't wait to use the Phantom armor, and I know you're probably excited for the Tingle outfit.
Of course, of course.
And I have to say the Master mode, which is the name that they're giving the hard mode, it looks really good. It's not just like in the previous games where it's just the click of a button and suddenly you get dealt more damage and hearts are gone. It actually looks fairly difficult with all the enemies being upgraded. I presume that's where that golden Lionel they showed in the trailer comes from. And the Trial of the Sword, when they first showed it, it also looked a little underwhelming, like just another shrine. But now that they actually reveal it to be this, I think, 45 level, like, really big space full of enemies, it actually looks really fun and interesting to go through.
Yeah, the Cave of Trials, Trials Sword, I guess, it does look very interesting, and it looks like a unique area. I kind of wonder how you'll access it, but I guess...
They showed on the, they showed in the treehouse at one point. They actually demoed it, and you actually go back. You go back to the pedestal for the Master Sword, and you just put the Master Sword back in, and then you have an option to start from the beginning, middle, or harder section of it.
Okay. And once you complete it, you get some sort of reward, but they haven't announced that yet, right?
I believe it's just that the Master Sword is always at its full power. I don't know if there's anything else, but I know they said that much at least.
Okay. And then the other parts of the DLC pack are the Korok mask, and then the armor. For me, I had a huge Twitter argument about this, but I felt like the Korok mask should have been free DLC.
I do agree with that because of how tedious it is to find all the Koroks in the original game. It does feel more like an assistance that's locked behind a paywall. I do agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then in addition to that, the Hero's Path, which shows where you've been, I think is also kind of like an assistant DLC. It's kind of just something that makes the game easier to complete.
I mean, I suppose it's good to have some things to make it easier for a while you're in Master Mode, because that only makes everything harder. So I guess that's meant to kind of balance out the pack so it's not just adding only things to make it more difficult, which I guess this helps the people that already found the game pretty difficult. But, I also believe they probably should have been free, or at the very least, like, really hard to find and unlock in the normal game.
Yeah, definitely. And then maybe, like, buying the DLC packs would have just unlocked it right away.
Yeah, or something. Well, actually, all the new armor, I'm presuming, including the Korok mask, you don't straight up get them from the DLC. You have to find them in treasure chests.
Yeah, it's like the first, if you pre-ordered the DLC packs with the Switch shirt, for example, you still have to find that treasure chest. So yeah, it'd probably function exactly like that. And there's also a travel medallion, which I think is another useful item, but I don't mind paying for that.
Yeah, the travel medallion's interesting because once you get to the point where you've gotten majority of the shrines, you're mostly where you already need to be. So I actually find it really interesting that they have that. But one of the main instances I can find it useful is there's a certain shrine quest cast that requires you you stand at a certain location for a blood moon, and this would be really useful for getting there on time as soon as you notice the blood moon, instead of like a mountain away and then having to fly over.
Yes, that would be useful. And also, grinding the dragon parts.
Yes, actually, that is pretty good too, actually.
Yeah, because previously you had to use bonfires, and then you'd have to wait and stuff like that. This way you can kind of continue to do the game, but then just warp back to the dragon parts areas and then get those parts. And then I guess let's start talking about the second DLC, which is the Champion's Ballad. They didn't really show off any gameplay or anything about this, but they really hinted that the DLC will be focused on the champions themselves.
Yes, and I think that's amazing because the champions are such great characters, and
Hmm.
the main thing that everybody disliked, or one of the main things people disliked about Breath of the Wild, is that you didn't get enough of the champions because
Yep.
they're already gone. So you only really get what Link used to know about them, and then their last regrets, and then you freed me, basically.
Yeah, they kind of served as the dungeon tutorials.
Hmm.
They they were there for that one dungeon, and then that was about it. So yeah, definitely welcome to get to know the champions more, especially Rivali. I really
Hmm.
enjoyed Rivali as a character.
Same.
I think that's probably everyone's favorite character.
I think most people are torn between Rivali for just what his personality is like, and then
Yep.
Urbosa because she's probably the best Gerudo character we've ever had.
Yeah, she's really well written as a character.
Mhm.
And I didn't. I know some people were kind of annoyed with Mifa, sorry,
Mhm.
for kind of like an anime trope,
Yeah,
fall
I
in love
can.
with a hero, but I didn't
Yeah,
mind it actually.
yeah. I personally liked it because I that was the first champion I went and saved, and
Yep, same here.
I was not anticipating like how heartfelt that would be, so that really like hit me.
Yeah, and then with Daruk, I thought he was just kind of middle of the road
Yeah, that
for
was.
Gorons at least.
The whole Goron section felt fairly lacking in their presence, especially
Hmm.
when you compare it to like the Gerudo and the Zora, which all the Zoras knew you, and then
Yep.
you interacted so much with the Gerudo that you only really had to interact with maybe two Gorons, and
Hmm.
it just felt very lacking in comparison.
Yeah. So they definitely showed that this story section will take place after the game is complete
Hmm.
because you saw Urbosa's guardian with the laser
Yep.
towards Hyrule Castle. So I wonder what exactly could happen. I mean, if you have all the shrines, I believe,
Hmm.
then you unlock that secret ending, which is like the guardians just
Oh,
like being at
that's
peace.
just if you have all the divine beasts, I believe. You don't
Oh,
need all the
sorry.
shrines for that.
Sorry. Yes,
That's
I think you're
good.
correct. Yeah. So would it would probably continue from then? Maybe I guess.
Yeah, I think so. And with getting the true ending, they give you the hint that something else happens. Link and Zelda go off to check out the divine beast. So I could totally see them continuing from there.
Hmm.
I was originally worried when they said, "Oh, it's a new story." I was worried that it would be something as an epilogue with nothing of the champions and it's just something else that happens in Hyrule. But
Yep.
with the way they had Cass kind of introduce it, I'm presuming it's more flashbacks involved with the champions as well. So that's pretty cool.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people hoping that you actually get to play as the champions, like in the past, but
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I don't think that would happen honestly, just because I think the game is just so centered around Link
Hmm.
that I think it would be very difficult. It would be weird to change that
Yeah.
game all the way, completely.
Hmm. I mean, it's entirely possible it'll involve like getting their help through a new
Yep.
dungeon since there's a new dungeon. So it's entirely possible. Maybe it is actually in the past, but it's
Mhm.
getting their help to go through that bigger
Yeah.
dungeon.
Yeah, or it might be like revisiting the dungeons and they're kind of remixed and stuff like that.
Hmm. I'm also curious by so we know there's the original story involving the champions and there's a new
Hmm.
dungeon, but there's still the quote unquote additional challenges that were
Yep.
said to be in there, and I have no idea what those are going to be.
Maybe they would act like achievements.
Okay, I can kind of see that actually.
That's the only thing I could think of, like if it's additional challenges,
Hmm.
because it's weird because like with this kind of DLC, like it has to work with the base game, I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
So you're kind of limited in some ways. Like I don't think they're gonna introduce DLC like they had for Borderlands, where it's like just like a completely separate
Hmm.
game almost. I think they're still trying to use that the Hyrule world that they just so lovingly built.
Right. And I guess that's another thing of I don't feel like it'll actually be an epilogue,
Hmm.
like taking place after everything, because then that locks it behind everybody needs to beat the game before they can access this.
Well, I mean, they have some of the stuff in the DLC that you can't access unless you find it.
Right.
So I guess it wouldn't be that much of a stretch.
I suppose. I feel like some people would be a little peeved if they bought the DLC and then it's like, oh no, you still have to beat the whole game first before getting to this. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tricky situation.
hmm
So do you think that it would just be accessible at any time?
Well, they said for take for example, Master Mode they announced it's a separate save file. So
Yep.
when you play Master Mode, it saves it separately from the main game. So it essentially gives you a second save file. I feel like this might do the same, of like a third save file meant for the original story. So it's unrelated to your main save file.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. But I guess one thing is like with the I'm sorry, the Master Trials, you have to have the Master Sword in order to do that.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because as you mentioned, the reward is to power up your Master Sword.
hmm
So I guess like I don't know, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't lock it behind completing the game.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess.
And like in order to I don't know, I feel like if they're releasing it all the way in the holiday
hmm
of next year, then most people would have completed that story, or at least would have enough time to finish
Yeah.
that story if they announce that it needs to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess
Yeah.
one of the next main things in relation to the Champions Ballad is the fact that what essentially is a surprise to everybody, the champions are all getting their own amiibo.
Yeah, which is great. It's great, and it's not great because I promised myself I would get all the Zelda amiibo,
Yeah.
and I'm just spending so much money on these things.
hmm Yeah, I told myself the same thing, and then I needed to start spacing them out pretty much as of the first real Zelda line, because I still don't have the Ocarina of Time link or the 8-bit link.
Yeah, and I just was able to pre-order them about a month ago. I learned my lesson with the first wave of Breath of the Wild amiibo because I had a really hard time finding the Zelda amiibo in
Right.
that line. So with these, I will definitely have to also pre-order them, but I hope they come out late enough that I don't feel so bad about spending another $40 on them.
I have a feeling they'll release around the same time as the DLC pack too.
Yep.
I personally feel like since every amiibo in the game, when you scan it, they give you an item. I feel like unrelated to the DLC itself, you'll probably get either their weapons or some sort of like drop related to them when you scan it.
Yep.
So I guess that'd be like a bonus of, hey, instead of needing to go all the way here and get the materials to them and have them make you a new one, you can just get a new one just from scanning the amiibo.
Yeah, at least have that as a random possibility.
Yep. It would be cool to get new armor by them, but I doubt that.
I mean, I fully expect their weapons to drop, and I would think maybe some inspired armor I think would make sense.
I would love to see that, but I almost doubt they would do that because you can already get Zora armor. You can get two different versions of Gerudo outfits. You can
That's
get
true.
you get the whole the clothing in Rito Village that kind of gives you like the feathers in your hair. That's meant to keep you warm, and then you get like the heat resistant armor for the Goron section, which that's not the Goron, but I mean, you already get something related to each area. So I'm wondering what they would do, so to say,
to further differentiate them.
Yeah.
We will definitely see. And I think that's about it for the Zelda news that was announced during the spotlight. I haven't been able to keep up with the Treehouse because they just air them so early in the morning in Japan. I have to sleep, guys.
Yeah, they've been pretty interesting. I actually wasn't expecting them to show off the Breath of the Wild DLC on the Treehouse itself. I thought it would just be in the spotlight, and it's like, oh, and it comes out this day. Okay, but they actually showed off. They showed off some of the beginning of the Trial of the Sword, and then some of the middle sections, and it definitely looks pretty difficult. But it looks like a lot of fun to go through, honestly.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to completing it when it releases later this month.
Yep.
Okay, so do you have any last comments before we wrap up this discussion?
Main thing is if we got some really good character-related armor in the Master Trials pack, being like the Majora's Mask, Midna's Helmet, etc., I really hope we get more in the next one, just inspired by more characters.
Oh yeah, like a Linebeck. Come on.
Oh, that would be great. He even has his own island in this one, please.
Yeah, you could go to Linebeck Island. You can wear the Linebeck mask. It'd be
Oh,
great.
that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, so where can people find you, Tris?
So you guys can find me on Twitter at tsfreelink25 or over on my Let's Playing channel, Weehee.
Okay. And I'm PushDustin. You can follow me at PushDustin, or you can follow this channel by going to All Source Gaming on Twitter. You should also subscribe to this channel so you can stay up to date with video game news, discussions, and a lot more.